every Thursday from 6 to 8 p.m. on Santiago Radio. Remember, if you want to be part of the show, you can email us with questions at alo@santiagoradio.cl, and we will try to incorporate the questions into the show, as well as email me with ideas for future guests. If you know someone here in Chile or visiting Chile that you'd like to come on the show, it'd be great to give them exposure. So, Sebastian,
Madame.
Exposure to you in
Thank
the
you.
developed world.
Thank you. By ALO.
MeetSebastian.com is your website, just so if people are online right now, they can be looking at your art as well as listening.
Would be
To
amazing.
your very profound statements.
Very, very deep.
Before the break, we were going into the issue of Latin America, and I don't think we've reached that point enough for my liking. So you were saying that it's a hindrance in a way to be from Latin America. The Sebastian now.
Definitely.
People cleaning
Well,
stores.
yeah, I mean, within... It's not only the racial element that... You go to a place like New York and you have groups of people that are located in certain jobs. And therefore it's like there's a prejudice towards racial groups, and that's an obvious. But at the same time, there's for example, in contemporary art, there's a very short history of contemporary art within South America. So whenever you say, hey, I'm a South American contemporary artist, they kind of figure that like you're walking around picking up twigs and like, I don't know, carving out logs, and it's the same thing that happens all the time. I always try to remember that if I say I'm from Chile, it's almost like saying you're from Nigeria, or maybe at the most you could be somewhere around Australia, but it's you immediately put more of an exotic image. And it's very hard for people to understand that you could have a very cultured, sophisticated, contemporary conceptual work that might be as avant-garde as anything that's being done by a British artist or American artist or whoever. So it is a whole prejudice that you've got to work against.
You're a professor at a university?
Sure, I was teaching in Parsons last semester.
Okay. That's in New York?
Parsons? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you know the whole Project Runway and all that stuff they do.
Not
there.
really, but I've heard of it. I don't watch a lot of TV, but people do. So with your students there, I mean, how do they see you? And maybe it goes into your teaching style as well, like, what have you been hoping to teach them, and what do you learn from them as well?
Well, I do basically the same I do with my work. I try to slap them around as hard as I can. It's simple. Like my first class, I almost always do the same thing. I go up to the chalkboard or whiteboard, and I try to write down the amount of teachers the students have had so far. I don't remember the numbers right now, but if you calculate you've been in some sort of a school system for, say, 17 years, and you've had an average of 10 teachers in each one, you have 170 teachers that have passed through you, out of which, if you're lucky, you could remember maybe 3 of their classes. Of those 3 classes, it might be 10 minutes of each one, it might be a minute of each one. How many of those could you actually even remember or give their name? So it's like within that context is that I have to give my own class. And basically what I do is like it's explaining to them that all I'm going to teach is, say, 10 judo moves. And my 10 judo moves, they're going to practice them through every single possible way again and again and again and again until they come so naturally that they're incorporated. Because I'm not going to try and teach a ton of other things. I'm just going to bash you around with my 10 judo moves so that I know that on class and teacher number 170, you took away 10 moves. Out of the ones, if lucky, you'll still be able to use 5 within 5 to 10 years.
Wow.
It's just that. It's being very, very practical and down to earth.
And do you find that style works in Chile as well? I know you're also a professor there.
Definitely.
Do you learn different things from the students? I mean, is there a different way of teaching Latin America? I know I was a teacher in Latin America in Honduras, and it's a lot more one way. You know, the teacher is the god, and and the kids don't ever teach the student or the teacher.
Sure.
So I don't know if there's a comparison.
I actually think, at least in the good universities in Chile, they're pretty much as good, maybe better than most of the universities abroad. And one of the important elements is that I think Chilean education, with all its problems, is tough and it's very demanding. I did my master's in art, for example, at NYU, and as an NYU kid, you're treated as a client, when I think it's very necessary to every now and then get, quote unquote, symbolically slapped around and told that your work is crap, hopefully because of a big amount of reasons. But I mean, if we continue to sustain this system where no real truth can come out because it's too hard, you can never really get that real either. I mean, it's the same idea with death. Like, we don't like to see death. We don't like to have it part of our life. We don't like to see this stuff. We don't like to be criticized. We don't like to be told that, you know what, you're not going to make it, because maybe you're not.
But that makes people stronger. It's a challenge, right? I mean, and who holds the truth? Who is the person that imparts the
statistics. Statistics have a lot of truths, and that's a good place to go get them when you're trying to be real. Because, I mean, I'm a dreamer and an idealist. Yeah. Like, I spend my money putting a cow on top of a rooftop. I do that as opposed to buying a nice car. Now, I can only be an idealist and a romantic and all that crap if I'm extremely real at the same time. And I know that, okay, if I want to transport a cow on board a cowmobile through the middle of Santiago with a police escort, and I know that if the cow shits on board the cowmobile and those liquids fall into the street, I could get ticketed and stopped. If I get stopped, the street that it took me 3 months to block will run out of the time, and I won't be able to get the cow on time, and the helicopter that I paid for to get the shots from above is already going to have passed just because of a stupid little element, a realistic element. So whatever we want to do, no matter what it is, no matter how crazy it is, you've got to be real. And reality for me is in a scientific way. I'm an artist, but science is in numbers. Yeah. My master's, it's 8% of the people who do an MFA who get to work in the arts afterwards. Wow. That's less than 1 out of 10. That's reality.
Yeah, that's reality. Well, let's be real and say we have a break now.
Definitely.
We'll be back with Sebastian E. MeetSebastian.com is the website. Stay tuned.